Well, unsurprisingly, the migrant hotel story runs on and on. Protests again today in Epping, outside the Bell Hotel. Interestingly, this time, it's less about the individuals in the hotel and what they're accused of, and it's more about the way Essex police have organised things. And I have to say, can you imagine if there was a Palestinian march through London and there was a counter-Jewish march to it? Can you imagine that the police would escort the Jewish march up to the Palestinian march to meet them face-to-face? Of course they wouldn't, because they would know that violence would erupt. And yet that is exactly what happened in Epping a couple of days ago, and people are pretty furious about it. We also learnt today, it was a Daily Mail story, that these asylum seekers are given what are called Aspin cards. They get about 40 quid a week to spend on an Aspin card, and we learnt that in the last year, 6,500 of these young men have been using the money to spend in betting shops. And I have to say, every story that comes out around these undocumented young males coming into Britain, about the cost of it, about what it all means, is pushing people to a point, I think, of increasing anger. So how much more of this can the public endure? Love to get your thoughts. Farage at gbnews.com. I am joined in the studio by Fiona Lali, campaigns coordinator for the Revolutionary Communist Party, though I suspect that is past tense, given what's happened with Jeremy Corbyn today, but we'll talk about that. I'm joined by Lord Glasman, Labour peer and leader of the Blue Labour movement, and Linda Jubilee, for the first time on this programme, long-time journalist and broadcaster, worked for many channels over the years. Let's start with the view of revolutionary communist, Corbynista. Do you understand, Fiona, why the protest began outside the Bell Hotel just a few days ago?
Yeah, I do understand. These protests are the result of capitalist media and capitalist politicians like yourself.
Capitalists?
Spending all of their political career. I mean, your political career is really built on weaponising the fears and the insecurities that people have in their lives.
What, being raped?
And horrific things, the most horrific things that can happen to people. You weaponise these events for your political career, which is built on lies, and you say that the problems, the source of all of this, comes from other poor people in society, rather than the real criminals, the biggest criminals, the people who are responsible, not just for horrific individual acts of violence, but the systemic violence that people face every single day as a result of austerity,
so if you
as
were
a result of the cost of living crisis.
If you were a mum...
And that's the result of capitalism and Starmer.
This has got nothing...
That's what you're distracting.
Let me
you're distracting from
it's Fiona, it's all good textbook stuff, but I'm going to put a human point to you, right? A non-political point to you. If you were a mum living in that part of Essex, and you knew that a young male, undocumented male, God knows where he came from, had been charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl, would you as a mum in that part of Essex be happy to let your teenage kids out?
Of course, it's a horrific thing that has happened.
Would you be happy?
Can
Now,
say that.
Answer my question.
It's not very profound to say that rape or assault is a bad thing. Everyone can agree on that.
So would you as a mum...
If you were genuinely concerned...
No. Would you as a mum... Would you as a mum living in Epping be concerned about what was going on?
I'm sure many mums are concerned. There are many people on these protests are concerned. Some of them, we can say, are not just concerned. Some of these people are verified neo-Nazis, right?
Oh, well,
fascists.
I like Antifa with masks chucking bottles at the police.
And you're weaponising that concern.
No, I'm not.
You're weaponising that concern.
I'm sorry,
And by doing these lies, you're defending the biggest criminals. The biggest criminals in Britain. That's what your career is about.
I'm not far right. I'm worried about my kids. Make Epping safe again.
Sure.
Linda, as a mum, do you understand why these protests started?
I understand precisely why those protesters are out there. I've got 3 children. Probably one of them isn't very far from your age. And if my daughter had to deal with anything like the young girl, which was the target of the alleged assault, I would be tremendously worried. Now, what I think is happening here is I think you're intellectualising and theorising the situation. How many asylum hotels have you been inside?
I have been inside.
Right, well, I've been inside 5, and I've met hundreds. Let me finish. You had your turn. I then went inside 5 hotels and I delivered 3 separate English language programmes to try and empower women. I was the Women's Empowerment Director. of an Afghan charity. Okay. So when people talk to me about me being too hard and too right, let me tell you that I fought in the trenches when it mattered to those women. But I will also tell you that when I was up at the House of Commons, and actually I got into conversation with one of the borough commanders in London, and he told me he was so concerned that one of the hotels on his patch was a powder keg because it was a male-only hotel. I listened to him because I'm not listening, therefore, to an intellectual debate. I'm listening to someone who is genuinely worried about what might happen at one of these hotels.
And Linda, it's fair to say, you know, you've worked with Afghan women and well done you. But it's true, isn't it, that these young men that come from Afghanistan, for example, are coming from a culture in which women, frankly, aren't even second-class citizens. Their attitudes to how they can behave towards women are culturally entirely different to what we would accept.
Very different. One of the things that, because there were many moments that really gratified me, and one of them was an elderly woman who, not only could she not write, she didn't know how to hold the pen. And that is because, she told me, she came from a family where she wasn't valued. She was just like a human incubator or a servant for the family. The first time she saw her name written down on a piece of paper, she cried. Wow. So I was dealing with people like that. So it matters to me. It matters enormously to me.
I don't think it does. I think you're trying to...
Are you saying Linda's wrong in what she's saying?
I think that you're trying to pretend that you have a genuine solution or a genuine cure. That's
extraordinary.
For the problems
that is extraordinary to say that to me.
Religions.
Extraordinary.
And I'm here because I want to say the truth. I agree that Britain is a powder keg. You said... Let me finish.
Why is it a powder keg?
I agree that Britain is a powder keg right now. There is so much anger in society, and people are really angry in Epping and in loads of other places as well. That anger isn't just expressed through protests outside of hotels. That anger is trying to be expressed in so many different ways, through strikes that are taking place, because people are angry over their conditions in life. They're angry over the NHS. They're angry. It's not different.
You're right about frustration, Lindsay.
And when you try and siphon it off, it's part of your defence.
This is about a community.
You don't want to talk about the huge, horrific situation in Britain today.
Are you happy for young, undocumented males to come into this country in huge numbers?
When you say this, again, that is not the reason that everyone's life in Britain is getting worse right now.
Shall I tell you why those young
That is not the reason.
Shall I tell you why those young mums in Essex are so worried?
They've said themselves they're scared about violence. And violence comes from the whole of the British establishment.
Do you know what? We're a free speech channel, which means you listen to everybody. Afghan men are 22 times more likely to be convicted of rape than British-born males. There is a massive cultural problem.
If you want to talk about rape and assault, let's talk about the cover-up in the Church of England. Let's talk about the cover-up on the BBC.
Let's give him a chance.
I'm also upset. Let's talk about Trump.
I tell you what, behave with manners or disappear. It's entirely up to you. This is a fair, we're fair to everyone. This channel, I tell you what, the BBC wouldn't have you on tonight. And we beat the BBC in numbers yesterday across the day. This channel gives everybody free speech, but respect the right of others. Maurice.
Yeah, and the Revolutionary Communist Party used to be intellectually robust, so I'm also upset about that. Yeah, the country is absolutely disgusting. And just something, Nigel, I don't call them asylum seekers anymore. They're coming from France. They can claim asylum in France. These are illegal immigrants. Yeah. They're unwelcome and we don't want them. And I think we've got to really concentrate on this, that there's a democratic will in the country, there's been repeated time and again in democratic elections, that they want the sovereign nation-state, the democratic sovereign nation-state, to get a grip on the borders.
Right? Absolutely true.
This is what we...
Well, I guess if you don't control your borders, you're not really a sovereign state, are you?
That's the point. Yes. And we went through that, Nigel, together... in the Brexit referendum. We've established a democratic mandate for sovereignty, for the control of borders. By the way, you can't have socialism without sovereignty. You can't have socialism without state control or state direction of the economy. But this used to be mainstream Marxism, which obviously doesn't matter in the Revolutionary Communist Party anymore.
If you want to talk about Marxism,
this is serious.
In a couple of minutes, we will talk about
this whole systematic establishment.
Morris, keep going.
So what we've got to do is absolutely make sure that we have effective control of borders. Now, that's where I want the conversation to go now towards action.
Well, the problem is the public now have no confidence. This government was elected saying it would smash the gangs. And the argument I've made time and time again is it doesn't matter whether you catch all the smugglers, give them life sentences, the financial rewards are so great, the more people will come up, won't they?
Absolutely. And I've had this conversation on several other programmes on GB News, and my view is to try and deal with this situation, you've got to pull on all the levers. You've got to be operational, so you do have to do something hands-on about the boats, but you have to have a strategy in place where you start dealing with this, because this is a network of traffickers. This is not just, you know, you need to get the drug dealer on the corner of the street. You have to go right to the source of drug dealing. And the same is true with human trafficking. You have to get to the network and you have to cut the head off the snake.
But even if... No, I'm going to argue, Linda, that sounds fine, but it doesn't work.
It's hard to do.
But it doesn't work. Because you think about it. A boat with 90 people on, crossing the channel, each paying €2,500 to €3,000, the financial rewards are so great that even if you cut the network, others will find ways to do it. It's the pull factors that are the problem. I mean, the very fact that you're given an Aspin card that you can use at the local betting shop kind of sums up why people are coming, I think. I tell you what, we'll draw stumps on that because I want to have a really good debate. And, hey, Fiona is no longer part of the Revolutionary Communist Party. She's joined the Corbynistas today, and in a minute she'll tell us why and what it means. All of that in just a moment. Who would have believed it? Those of us of a certain age were brought up to believe that because of a first-past-the-post electoral system, there would only ever be two parties, and maybe just a few Liberals here and there. But it was impossible under first-past-the-post for fragmentation of British politics to happen. But it is happening, and I have a feeling it's happening really rather rapidly. So, much anticipated, much flagged, but Jeremy Corbyn today has launched his new left-wing party.
It's democratic, it's grassroots and it's open, and Zara and I have sent out this statement today which has had a massive pickup already. The Independent Alliance of MPs have sent out a broadly similar, identical statement in support of it as well, and we will then develop from there, but the broad political principles are there, and that's the important thing, important message to get across. Listen, people have had enough out there. They're fed up with seeing cuts to their services, threats to personal independence payments, continuing child poverty, waspy women shortchanged by the government, and the only thing they can find money for is more weapons of war.
Now, there is something of an appetite out there for a party to the left of Starmer's Labour, and a snap poll out this afternoon shows that actually they'd be on about the same as the Labour Party because they take a big chunk of Labour votes. They'd also hit the Green vote quite hard as well. Now, I'm not sure what the name of it is. I thought it was launched as your party, but Zara Sultana doesn't seem to think that's the case. Fiona, this is a big moment on the left of politics.
It is a big moment, and I think it's a great thing. I think this has been a long time coming. I think the fact that 80,000 people have already signed up to join this party shows how much people are yearning for a genuine alternative to Starmer, an alternative that I don't think Reform is offering. And I think that young people are going to join. I think in the short term, talking about an end to austerity, a free Palestine, nationalisation, genuine nationalisation, these are the things that people actually want. And I think in the future, you know, there's been a huge vacuum in politics for a while. And to a certain degree, Reform was tapping into that, anger. I actually think that this party, if it has a really genuinely militant socialist programme, I think in the future it will take votes away from Reform as well, because it's going to concentrate on working class issues. It's going to concentrate on the sort of politics that could actually unite people. And I think that this is a historic moment, and I would encourage as many people as possible to join this party, which is going to be, it's supposed to be a democratic party, so that we can help build it, we can help form it. And I think the next 4 years, the next couple of years are going to be very, very different to what the last couple of years.
What does it mean? I mean, it has actually been increasingly obvious that there has been a space on the left in politics. Yep. And we've seen a Green vote going up. We've seen 4/5 people Gaza independence with a very strong sort of Kashmiri Pakistani vote in some of the sort of inner cities. So there has been a gap on this. But what is it? Is this good news or bad news for what you want the Labour Party to be?
Well, I think it's very good news. I really welcome it because the sort of Islamist public sector, working class concerns that don't include mass immigration, that cuts wages. I think it's time for them to put their case to the people.
Yep.
I think the poll is greatly inflated. Obviously, eliminates.
Well,
that.
it's brand new, but it's just a snapshot.
I think it
doesn't
actually
really show there's an appetite there.
Yeah,
and that's the point.
For those of us in Labour who want the party to be a patriotic socialist party, it's very good news because it removes a huge amount of static and noise, sort of student union politics, that sort of thing, and that we can concentrate on being a serious. No, I mean Corbyn was leader of the Labour Party. I lived through that.
Yeah.
And it was an extraordinary. I mean, someone who went to the country supporting a second referendum on Brexit but wouldn't tell anybody how he voted. It was like being led by a sort of, geography teacher at school.
But he
who
was
basically
popular with some people.
Yes, that's the point.
And he did get
No,
for a
there
brief
is a
moment,
very...
youth wave,
Okay, so
about
let's get to
politics.
the
It's not about the
point. There
individuals.
is a serious Islamist public sector union constituency that wants a different form of politics.
Yeah.
I welcome it being
What are you
outside
talking
Labour.
about Islamist public sector?
Well,
What
the
are you
Islamist
talking
factor
about?
is, of course, very much a part of
No,
this.
what-
I mean,
I think
Jeremy
you're
Jeremy
scared
sits
about
with
what
the
this
four cars
party
of independence.
No, I don't think anyone's scared.
I
Let
think you are
me just
scared.
say that
I
I'm
think
not
you
at all
are
frightened.
scared.
Of course not. I mean, I'm a
Okay.
grown woman.
Well, we'll
and
see.
I've been in conflict zones, so I'm
I
certainly not
welcome it,
frightened of
Fiona.
this.
I really
But
welcome
what
it.
I'm saying
I
is,
welcome it
I
too.
actually admire you. I think that it's tremendous to go to a new party. I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
I'm
It's an
joining this
addition
party
to
as a
the-
revolutionary
It's an
and as a
addition to the
communist.
political landscape, and I think it's to be applauded. I may not agree with you, but I live in a country where I'm allowed to disagree, and you're allowed to disagree with me.
I think
But I
that's-
think you're a valuable ingredient going forward.
Linda, I think that point is a really fundamentally important point. It should be a free country, and they are going to present a fresh choice. But I want to ask you, Fiona, about something. I got this quote from you. It's happening. I've signed up. I want this party to fight for real socialism, for real change. That means revolution. What do you mean by revolution?
I mean, we need to completely overhaul the capitalist system. I think capitalism is a system which is based on profit, right? The
Yeah.
way the economy is run is on the basis of profit and not need. What I'm arguing for is an economy that's planned on the basis of need, where ordinary workers can have control over their lives, a say over what is going on.
But you have to pay for that.
Yeah, that's right. Can I just
and
ask,
that
where do you
means-
get the money
and
from?
that means nationalising without compensation.
You can do
in a
that.
serious
You-
way.
no, you-
the
I mean,
major
you can do all that,
corporations.
but where do you get your tax
and actually, the
revenues?
majority of people, if you look at a lot of polling, the majority of people support nationalisation. They support things like bringing water
where do you get the
into
money
public
from?
control. There is a lot of money in
Where
society.
is it?
I'll tell you. You know what's funny is there's also been protests outside of this.
No, tell me where the money
I'm
is.
telling you, outside of the hotels in Canary Wharf, right?
Yeah.
And people are angry about asylum seekers in a hotel in Canary Wharf. And if they turned around, they would see there's plenty of money in London sitting in Canary Wharf.
Okay.
London is the 6th richest city in the world. There's plenty of
So
money.
how are you going to get
There's
that money?
plenty of money
How are you going to get
through
that money?
expropriation, through nationalisation,
because you're
through a
literally gonna
mass
steal people.
movement.
So are you prepared to steal people's
Those are the
properties?
thieves. Those are the thieves. The people
my
who
God,
sit
yeah.
in the,
Oh
in
my
the
God.
Canary.
How can
Yes,
I tell you
the
what.
bankers.
I tell you what.
The bankers.
Ridiculous.
They are
I
thieves.
tell you what,
You don't think
Fiona,
they're thieves?
If
No,
you
I think they're
argue,
thieves.
if you argue for
Well, there you go.
I think they go to work.
if you argue for fairness,
Everyone goes to work.
you might get some
Exactly.
votes.
Everyone goes to work, but some people are going to work every single day
If
and their
you
lives are
argue-
getting worse.
if you argue
Meanwhile,
for expropriation-
billionaires.
I agree with
there
that.
are more billionaires today than there were a couple of years ago, and yet
No,
everyone
there's
else's
less
life.
now.
Fewer. They're leaving.
less.
Globally, there
dear,
are
oh
more
dear.
Now you
billionaires
can
than there have
understand
been in the
Nigel.
past.
Look,
whilst the working class,
Fiona,
whilst
listen,
the working class
listen,
is being devastated.
Listen, rich people, if you expropriate...
Who you defend.
If you expropriate people's legal property, and if you are genuinely prepared to go down that route, not only is there a mini exodus, which Linda did refer to, of wealth creators, of job providers, we would be bankrupt within 18 months, literally bankrupt.
Who produces the wealth in Britain? It's not the bankers.
people who
it's
put up-
ordinary workers who
It's
go to work
actually people
every
who
single day.
understand
Who put up
growth.
capital.
And it's
who
not the
build
people in
businesses.
Canary Wharf.
It's people who generate growth and build businesses.
yeah.
Those are the people.
And employ people.
And employ people, of course. How do you expect anyone to get a
Real
job
wages.
if you don't
Well,
back companies to grow?
Fiona, I've got to tell you, thank you. You have laid out your case very clearly. If that is the articulation of not just your view.
That's my view.
No, that's your view, and let's see
And I
where the
can tell you
party.
my view.
Yeah.
Let's see where the party ends up. But I promise you, if you go down the route of thinking expropriation is acceptable,
Without compensation,
you will not win a single seat in Parliament. You'll get very, very few votes, and
Let's
Britain
see.
will be knocking on the IMF's door within 6 months. But you've had your say, which is great. Thank you for joining us.